1 and... Welcome to the Intern Whisperer Live, the show all about internships and how to survive them. This is Val.
This is Isabella.
And this is Jerron.
On our show this evening is a spectacular guest, Royce Gomez, an employer with Pivot and Intern Pursuit Interns.
No, she's not an employer yet. Yeah. We'll have to fix that one too. She's an employer that has used, that was my fault, that has used Pivot and Intern Pursuit Interns. So sorry about that, Val. I didn't mean to mess you up there.
No problem. Reminder to our listeners that you cannot do it tonight, sadly, but on most nights after this, you'll be able to call us at 407-582-2906. And you can also chat through us online through Intern Pursuit's Facebook live chat.
But even if they cannot chat with us that night, we love their feedback and we want them to write us notes.
Yes,
right?
indeed. Please comment, please.
Yeah, we love your comments.
And also coming up this episode of Intern Whisperer Live, we're going to be learning about the world of business coaching, our favorite hashtag, What I Learned. We're going to talk about some internship stories. We're going to talk about some great leaders, and of course, innovation in marketing.
So, how can people find us? There's all types of ways now, people. You can find Pivot Business Consulting on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. Go to the website, pivotbusinessconsulting.com, and go to the bottom of the page. You'll find those links. Intern Pursuit, you can find us there, internpursuit.com. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and also on Intern Pursuit Game. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. And then you can listen to us live on mixlr.com, Valencia College, it's / Valencia College Radio, and then search for Intern Pursuit and follow us. And then you can watch us live on Facebook with the Intern Pursuit channel. So please go ahead, follow us, all of those great ways to connect. And we are really thrilled. We love having our listeners jump onto the line with us and ask us questions and ask our guests questions.
But before we start the show, let's talk about our first sponsor, Florida Patients Association. Florida Patients Association, whose mission is to bring support and services to patients in the state of Florida. If you have not received the help and support you need from an injury in the healthcare industry, contact Florida Patients Association for guidance on your rights. Thank you, Florida Patients Association, for sponsoring the Intern Whisperer Live.
Aside from the music, which is really one of my most favorite things, I just so love this music, and I have to make sure I say this. The game is in development. Sophie is making new music, and it will be going into the hub of the headquarters of Intern Pursuit, and I'm going to tell you guys, it is awesome music. It is just really, it's got this like slow jam thing going on and all kinds of really cool instruments being played. So
We're looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah.
And if you are interested in the game, listen to one of our previous podcasts where we talk to some of the developers.
Yes, and they can also find internpursuit.com /game.
And also on YouTube.
Yes, sir. Okay, so tonight we're going to be getting to meet with Royce Gomez. She is participating with us tonight via Skype, and she is in Colorado. So we're doing this as a long distance type of a opportunity to chat. She's a business coach. She's a content writer. She's a published author. She also has a blog talk channel. I mean, she is a total woman that does everything in this space of content. Royce has worked with Pivot Business Consulting intern program, and we've been mutual. We're actually friends, but we also support each other in business. So welcome, Royce. I'm so excited to have you here on the show.
Thank you. I am very excited to be here today, Isabella.
Yeah, and it's just so our listeners know, Royce and I were talking earlier, and it's been a while since we've been able to chat. So this is going to be kind of where we can mutually catch up with each other. So if we end up going kind of off topic, it's only because we're just going, oh my gosh, what about this? So, we're going to talk about internships, entrepreneur stories, industry innovation, leadership, all of those fun things that you're going to be able to share with us. But first, let's talk about what your background is. I remember when we first met, it was eclectic and kind of like mine, I feel like. So, I felt that kindred spirit about you. And, you know, we both have writing in common, and we both have this nonprofit industry experience that we have. So there were a lot of areas where we overlapped, and we bonded, I think, at that point in time. So why don't you tell our listeners about your company and what it is that you do, and then a really great entrepreneurial story. You don't have to try and, crunch it all in at one time. Let's just hear what your company is and what kind of services you provide to your clients.
Okay, well, Isabella, you mentioned an eclectic background, and it certainly has been. I've been an entrepreneur since age 17, and that's the one thing that has been consistent for me. But because I like challenges and learning new things, I have owned almost a dozen companies, and I've surpassed a couple of hundred brands going from idea to implementation and helping them achieve results and craft a compelling story. And some of my entrepreneurial ventures have come from my own experience and my need to learn something for my own business, and others have come because of personal interest. So I've continued to be an entrepreneur and innovate and reinvent myself 5 different times. And so that gives you a little bit of background about me. I believe your next question was a favorite entrepreneurial story. Is that correct, Isabella?
Yeah, it is. But I just want to go back to one thing that you said, 20 companies. Oh, my God. 20 companies. About
a dozen companies, I think.
That is a lot of companies. Like, you paid to register them and have, like, a formal name and, paid taxes, like all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I've had about a dozen companies, and I currently own 2. But yes, I've incorporated them. Some have failed and some have succeeded. So as far as paying taxes, some have been tax write-offs because, as most entrepreneurs, we experience failure.
Oh my
goodness! And
yeah.
some, I've generated 6 figures from. So it's been quite the wild ride.
Yeah. So what is your best or most favorite entrepreneur story? Because, I Googled this real quick. It says 8 out of 10 businesses fail. And that's from Forbes. I find that as probably accurate. Yeah. And fail is not, I don't think fail is fail. I think it's what you learned.
Oh gosh, 2 of them really come to mind. One goes way, way back. I operated an image consulting business for 10 years in Chicago and worked with very affluent clients in the luxury market, and moved out to Colorado in a very small town, and no one needed image consulting services. I was not asked to do wedding makeup. I was not asked to do color coordination and wardrobe consulting, and I had to reinvent myself. And basically what I did with that business was just close it down because I had moved away from my market and bought some horses. And lo and behold, before I knew it, my horses had become a business, and I designed programs and worked with at-risk populations and corporate team building, and just created several programs that I was interested in doing and expanding my business. So that goes way back and just shows you a great example of reinventing yourself from one end of the spectrum to another. I mean, I went from affluent salons to scoop and poop, The other one that really comes to mind is the power of networking online and offline, and I do teach this in some of my keynotes about networking online being very similar and the value of building relationships. Last year, I ended up networking online through LinkedIn, which I find a very powerful, effective tool, and connected with someone in Europe who asked me to come and speak at a conference. And before you knew it, I had 2 other speaking engagements there. And it just goes to show the power of networking. And I know that when we spoke, you talked about how important innovation is for entrepreneurs. And being innovative and reaching out creatively to network online can be a source of gigs for you, whether it be a speaking gig or a consulting gig or anything else, because it really is about the value of building relationships. And I have been asked to come back to Europe this fall and speak to a group of financial analysts. And so it's just the amazing power of network and innovation and developing a marketing strategy in your business.
I would agree with that. I did not know about that wedding planner thing. That was interesting. And I think I kind of knew about the horse because I think I remember you when we met. Goodness, I want to say it's like, what, 4 years ago?
Maybe even longer. I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so. I think it's been about like 4, maybe 5 years. But I think I knew a little bit about the horse thing. I was thinking you were gonna. I'm really surprised that was your favorite entrepreneur story because I thought for sure you were going to talk about how you just picked up and you toured, just totally toured Europe, and I was expecting that one. But I think the guys will enjoy hearing that story too.
All right, randomly going to Europe. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, because she
you'll have to get the book, The Spontaneous
and...
Journey, that shares a little bit more about that story where I just picked up and started traveling. But when you've designed your business model to be virtual, you can create some amazing opportunities in your world through travel. That's for sure.
Yeah, what countries did you go and visit?
When I went to Europe, I visited only Italy, but I visited 4 regions of Italy. But I did travel for 31 weeks, and 27 of those was throughout the United States.
Okay, so you did a U.S. tour before you decided to head over to Italy. Okay. And then
did.
Were you traveling with your business online at the time?
Yeah, my business still is entirely virtual, so I can work from anywhere in the world. And as I traveled, I made sure to network and connect in some of the communities, and ended up coaching about 30 startups in one community and having 5 interns, which I know is a topic for this radio show soon. And then in Nashville, I ended up doing 2 marketing consulting gigs short term and being invited to cover a social impact story. So I just really created some amazing opportunities during those trips.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just shows for many people, and I think our listeners is, I don't think I've had anybody here that was a remote, that traveled and they ran their business in this way. So I think this is the first time. Yeah, the guys are shaking their heads now.
Yeah, Royce, you're the first that we had on the show.
Wow.
Yeah. So most people, they set roots and they kind of stay stationary. So, but this is really a different one, a different type of an opportunity to hear what that's like. So really looking forward to those stories. So anyway, so your entrepreneur story. And, one of the other things, she also ran an accelerator up there. You're in Denver, or where are you exactly?
No, I'm near Colorado Springs, and I was the executive director of a startup organization that provided mentorship, and we had about 60 or 70 companies that went through there and received mentorship while I was in that role. And then in the Panhandle area of Florida, a little bit closer to you, I ran a business incubator with 5 companies and 6 interns for a summer.
Mm-hmm. What was that like? And what did the interns do?
We actually created an e-commerce company from the ground up. It was a very unique situation, and someone just bought a building that had some very unique tech equipment inside it. And I chose and worked with interns to create a company from nothing, just from looking at this warehouse full of tech equipment to how do we move it, how do we market it, how do we price it, what is it, writing product descriptions for an e-commerce site, building a website, the entire process within about 120 days. And that was quite the experience.
I remember that. I remember when you were doing that. I think that was right around the time we had met. I think so. So where did you pull your interns from? Did you have a certain school? What were their backgrounds, their degrees that they were pursuing?
All but one was from the local community college, and then one was kind of a unique intern. I ended up pulling my daughter, who was older than college age, in and having her be the lead intern because she had some experience and knowledge that, freshmen and sophomores in college don't have. And I had one high schooler that was there too, and he was a homeschooled kid and quite sharp. And because he was homeschooled, he was able to work his schedule to join us as well. So I had 4 college kids from the community college, and then a high schooler and a graduate.
That's really interesting. I am learning so much about things that I thought, you know what, I did not know that part either. So that's a good story there. So let's switch over to consulting. What type of clients do you work with? Is it a certain type of industry you prefer, or is it just working one-on-one, or are there like big companies, or is it everything?
Well, John Formica, the ex-Disney guy and America's and Australia's best customer experience speaker, really says that my marketing book is truly magical and can help any business owner maximize their revenue and achieve legendary status. So really, strategic planning and marketing strategies are across the board applicable to any kind of business, but I do have my favorites that I like to work with. I love working with startups, nonprofit, businesses in the real estate industry, the culinary industry, or health and beauty. From my background as an image consultant, I've worked with a cosmetic company out of Paris and some others that have been fabulous to work with. So those would be my favorites. But I primarily work with startups who are just starting out and need to define what their brand is and craft that message. Or I work with people and businesses who are rebranding and need to seamlessly pivot with their next strategy.
Yeah, no pun intended there.
Yeah. No, like the client I just got off of the phone right before this, working with them in LA,
That's super cool. So I know you said culinary. I think I remember your son is in the culinary industry. Oh no! Did we
I believe
lose
we
her?
just lost her
yes, we
actually
did.
through Skype. Yeah, it seems like we're having some technical difficulties right now.
Oh.
I will.
See if you can get her back. So for our listeners,
Is she back? Royce, can you hear us?
Yes.
There we go.
Perfect.
We lost you for a second there.
Oh. I was chatting away.
Yeah.
I was sharing a story of my
Unfortunately,
favorite.
you were gone, and we
type
went.
of-
Oh,
she just cut out. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you're stationary, right? Because I know when you move through those mountains, stuff happens.
I am stationary. I am not traveling. I am totally focused on our show today.
Oh, cool. Well, I was saying that I think I know why culinary, because I believe your son is a chef also.
Yes. And I'm a foodie too. I absolutely love food and food trucks and the whole innovation of food and the fusions that have been created in recent years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what, because at one time, this is something else that we have in common. I bet you guys didn't know this. I don't think I told it to you guys. At one time, I was thinking I was going to do some type of a food truck or a catering idea. And so I had created a menu, and I had the name for a food truck, and it was called H2O Food to Go. So it was H squared, like water, the symbol for water. And the reason why I was calling it that, because I'm a Latin wannabe. I'm not, but I'm a wannabe. So it was healthy, Hispanic, organic. So that's why it was H squared.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clever.
So that was the name underneath it, Healthy, Hispanic, Organic Food to Go. So created a logo, did all of this stuff. I made all this food. I took it out on college campuses, and I had it taste tested and said, how much would you pay for this? Because it was either locally grown, and I don't think Royce knows this either, either locally grown or I had used organic food. So, for example, it was a box meal. You chose between 4s. One was a veggie one where it was like eggplant and onions and peppers and things like that mixed together in a ciabatta. You could choose a side. You chose one sandwich, you chose a side, and then you chose a dessert item. So my sandwich items were a cold chicken cilantro salad, a pulled pork barbecue. I also had a Mexican meatloaf. I'm thinking maybe you might be hungry, although you look like it, but you look like, no, you're like, you ate pork.
I haven't eaten much today.
Showed up, yeah.
And then I had the veggie one. My sides were I have to think about it because I abandoned it. A spicy hummus, a chunky guacamole, and then I also had hand-cut sweet potato fries. Like chips.
So good,
chips.
yeah.
And you made all of this yourself?
I did.
Right.
I did. And then my dessert choices that you were able to select from was a candied cilantro tequila brownie,
That's
a candied
unique.
bacon bourbon brownie, or a piece of fruit. There you go for the healthy option. And then the last one was a nut and coconut brownie. So I loved making brownies. So anyway, I took all of that out to the college campuses, and people loved it, and they really loved it. And for me, the best part was when a Latin student had said, "This tastes like my grandmother's food," and I went, "Oh, wow, I really hit it.
Yeah.
I think I hit the money." And I asked them how much they would pay for it, and I was surprised. How much would you have paid for a locally grown or organic meal, no beverage, those 3 items?
On campus?
On campus.
I'm trying to think of like most
Box
prices
meal.
on campus too. Cause
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because when you're on campus, your prices are...
Well, no, it's not necessarily on campus. It would have been like my target market was actually schools that did not have cafeterias.
See, I think that because of that being your target market, I think people would end up going low because you're talking about school lunches. But personally, I would pay depending on portions, but I would pay between like $8 and $12.
Yeah, like that's what I usually pay at school. So it's like at school, I feel like when there's something outside the norm where it's like more, it's like if it's obviously free or less, it's like great.
Yeah.
But it's like more, it's like I'm more hesitant to necessarily buy it.
Yeah.
So if
Because
you're in
that's
between
normal.
my price range between like 8 and 12,
I can get a
then
sandwich
I
at
agree.
Chili's for between $8 and $12.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like...
So I took it on the Rollins campus also, and they were way more generous than you guys were.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said they would have paid 15 to 18, and actually the 15 mark was the price point that I needed to be able to hit to make a profit.
Interesting.
So I was really thinking, okay, yeah. And then I went and I worked on a food truck, and then I'm going to be finishing up so we can focus on Royce here. But I do want to hear what she has to say about this. So I went and worked on a food truck, and I went, okay, this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then everything was abandoned, and I went, well, maybe I could make these meals, and I would take it to the schools where I worked and just sell them as box meals there, and I could pre-order, and that way I wasn't going to be stuck with anything left over. And then I decided, you know what? I only like cooking for fun, for people that, I either want to entertain or to do it for fun. I sure don't want to do this as a business. And I went, forget it. I was out.
At that point, how long did you work on it? Do you think?
It was about 6 months. I actually went up to some food trucks and I gave them my brownies. They said that I could bake them and then they would put them on the truck too. But I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to spend that kind of time doing it. So, what's the best thing your son has made, Royce? Because I know he cooks.
Yeah, I don't get to eat most of what he cooks because we live across the country from each other. So I
What? Now,
really
come on
don't
now.
know.
He has
But
to
I do
cook
see
for you.
amazing pictures. He'll send me pictures of, Mom, look what's for dinner. And it looks incredible.
Yeah, but when he comes and visits, he doesn't cook.
Thanksgiving?
No, she cooks, and Royce is a really good cook, though.
No.
No, that's too bad. That's a bummer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, does he have aspirations of having his own restaurant? Are you going to be coaching him through that?
We've talked about that off and on, but I don't think so. You know, restaurants are one of the hardest
They
businesses
sure
to have be successful, and they have a lot of food waste and a low profit margin. So banks don't like to fund them, and I learned that when I was doing a social impact business plan for a social enterprise for a nonprofit actually in Orlando. And I consulted with some executives from Darden and Yum Foods, which are major national brands. So I don't think that the restaurant business is a profitable endeavor
No,
most
you got to
of
have
the
some
time.
serious bank to get it up and running.
And just so anyone who doesn't know, Darden is they own Olive Garden, they own Bahama Breeze, they
yeah.
own all these major chain restaurants.
Yeah, we definitely know that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and Yum Foods owns things like Taco Bell and I think KFC and some of your fast food chains. So again, they are icons in the restaurant industry and know what they're talking about.
They sure do. They sure do. So, what is the biggest or the best innovation that you have seen in the consulting industry? Sorry about that.
Oh boy, that's a tough question.
Well, what's the best
Let me-
program that maybe you've used too? Because this is time where we can actually give a little shout out for some of those programs we use.
Yeah, let me answer the first part of that question by saying that I think times are changing so quickly in most of your industries and verticals that you have to continue to innovate and change and be at the forefront of the pack or you get left behind. So I don't know that I have a favorite story of innovation, but I do have some brands I think have innovated extremely well. You have Amazon Prime, and today is Prime Day, and they have innovated the face of retail and the way we shop and will continue to change that. Apple is another company that has been innovative, and if you've ever seen Simon Sinek's TED Talk, Start With Why, it really does share how innovation plays a role in any company, and small brands can do that too. You know, when I'm working with my coaching clients, we do talk about innovation and what their unique value proposition is and how we can deliver that to hit their ideal audience, just like Amazon and Apple does.
That is very, very true. Very true. Yeah, and I'm wondering if Amazon went and made Amazon Prime Day, if they registered that with the government as like some kind of a special day.
They may have had to, just because, as far as I know, their servers were down because it's like one of the biggest website traffics of the year.
The server was down the moment it launched
Yeah.
at 3 o'clock today.
So they may have had to like
Really?
Yes,
let
it
people-
All their
was.
links were breaking.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
So
may have had to let people know because infrastructure purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have never, I don't have an Amazon Prime account.
really. You're one of the few now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm one of the few, I guess. Actually, I know a lot of people that don't. But, Royce, do you have an Amazon Prime account?
I do, and going back to their failure on the server, you know, that goes to show you that every business has challenges, and you have to address those challenges head on. Sometimes they're software challenges, sometimes they're marketing challenges, but everyone goes through that. But tomorrow the brand will still be around and people will still continue to shop. And that's what you want to keep your eye on as an entrepreneur, is not the failure or the breakdown that is momentary and will pass, but what the future vision looks like for your company. And I just want to encourage entrepreneurs who may be having breakdowns that it happens to every business.
Oh, yeah. It sure does. I usually tell myself 3 things. I'm pretty sure you do also. It's don't pay attention to distractions, good or bad. And, that can be a distraction when something breaks. But it can also be a distraction when we have wonderful things that happen. So it falls into there. Yep, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if we covered this earlier, but I may be asking it again. You've used the Pivot/Intern Pursuit pool. I haven't ever given you any formal training, which is what I do now with employers, is I train them in intern practices. But you've been able to utilize the pool of students that have worked with Pivot and Intern Pursuit. What type of work have they done for you?
The 2 most relevant projects that they were working on was when I was rebranding, my logo needed updating to reach a different market and really speak more to my ideal audience. So they redesigned my logo to kind of embody the character of my brand, to be more fluid and be able to pivot, because that's what I really tell entrepreneurs to do and help show them how. And so there's fluidity in my logo, and that was through your interns.
So what's the name of your company? Let me push you on pause there for a minute, because it's your name also. What's the name of your logo?
Royce Talks.
Royce Talks, that's right.
And where can the listeners find your website and things like that?
RoyceTalks.com or coachingwithroyce.com.
That's
the
super good.
second project that they worked on is the cover to 2 books I had coming out. And when you go on RoyceTalks.com, you won't see those covers because we totally redesigned them after the interns worked on them. But their ideas were incredibly creative, and some great things came out of those ideas that can be used in later projects, even though I did not use the book covers as designed by the interns. And that's something that you want to remember as an employer when you're using interns, is sometimes the skill set or the level of expertise that you need on a project is above what an intern can deliver, and sometimes it's perfect for the interns. So you really want kind of a job description to be able to set the intern up for success. And Isabella, you mentioned that you've implemented training, so I'm sure that you share that with employers, that you want to set them up for success. But sometimes with a creative project like a book cover, it's really not the intern that wasn't capable. It's just a different direction that the book needs to go. And I have 2 business coaches, and I walk through that book cover selection with my one business coach. So sometimes there's nothing wrong with giving them creative liberties and using their ideas down the road.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. But yeah, I do have employers create job descriptions, and I'm pretty sure that's something that we had done also previously with you too. So what piece of advice would you give an employer seeking to work with them? I think you kind of answered that, is to make sure you have a job description. So that's like really good there too. That was like spot on. Yeah. So we'll jump over to leaders that have inspired you.
Okay.
So who are those people and why?
There are 2 great entrepreneurs that I respect from afar. I've never been able to meet them yet, but one day maybe I will. I think Oprah Winfrey is an amazing woman, and I'm not much of a TV watcher, so it's not about agreeing or disagreeing with her show or her book club, but watching her as a businesswoman. I watched her get her start because I did live in Chicago when she started. And she went from a local TV personality to this business icon with multiple successful businesses and investments. And I think that that's just so exciting and inspiring for women to see someone like her. For the older generations, Dolly Parton has done that extremely well, as has Reba McEntire. And so I'm just inspired by women who can create estates and an investment portfolio that's diverse. Another leader that inspires me from afar is Richard Branson. And he has just continued to be an innovator and thinking outside the box and a marketing genius that does not follow the rules of marketing, but kind of creates his own space with his brands. And I admire him for that.
Those are really interesting sources or leaders, because we've never heard any of those before.
No.
Yeah, and I think when you mentioned Dolly Parton, I don't know if people know that story about her, where she just grew up in a family, and it was a very poor family. It was a lot of poverty. But she has some Christmas specials that come out every year, and it's like the little stories that are about her family. They're really very inspiring and uplifting. But you see this different person, her character, and she's pretty flamboyant and pretty much bold and out there. And I think that's consistent with her personality, but super generous and super kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good choices. I really enjoyed hearing about those. Interesting.
Yeah, she has a true rags to riches story. So again, whether you like or dislike the people, they have their attributes to admire.
Yeah, they sure do. So, lastly, is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know about things that, because I was pointing out things that I know that I think are interesting about you, but is there anything else you'd like to share about your entrepreneurial journey? Because it's definitely been a nice, interesting road that you've journeyed, and you might have another piece of wisdom that you might want to share. Anything else?
Yeah, I guess to answer that question, one thing that really comes top of mind is that I love helping companies bridge the gap between where they are now and where they want to be. Every entrepreneur starts his business with a vision, and sometimes they get caught up in the minutia of the daily activities that are required of them, and sometimes they get discouraged by the breakdowns that happen in business, and they lose track of where they want to be, or more disappointingly is that they don't know how to get there. And if you just seek a business coach out, you can get there. And there are so many business coaches out there. I hesitate to use that because I think it's an overused phrase, and people don't know what to look for in a business coach to find the right one. But really helping entrepreneurs begin with the end in mind, and then working backwards and reverse engineering that process is something that I have walked hundreds of companies through, and I just love to do. So if you're an entrepreneur out there, just don't get discouraged. Find the resources that you need. It's so much easier now than when I started nearly 30 years ago because of Google and all that we have access to at the click of a button in an instant.
That is very true. Those are good parting words there. So I've also just dropped your logo in there so that when we're putting our social media out, people will be able to grab that logo too and be able to see what it looks like, because it's by far really, really different from what she originally had. I like this one so much, not because it was one of my interns that had done this, but I really like it. It's really clean, it's really crisp, it looks very uplifting, and I just think it's super nice. So I think we're going to be going into our next sponsor announcement, and we're going to have to be wrapping up.
We are, but just to finish it off with our second sponsor of the night is Affiliate Manager. Affiliate Manager offers a complete management service that covers all aspects of developing and optimizing an affiliate program. Not only do we provide expertise, identify high potential opportunities, and execute campaigns to maximize performance, we make sure to we make it a point to require minimum work from our merchant partners. You can reach them at affiliatemanager.com. Thank you, Affiliate Manager, for sponsoring the Intern Whisperer Live. Our music seems to have broken.
Oh no. That means we
But
have
we
to
can
hum.
imagine it.
Yeah.
I can't
Part
get
of
it right.
doing a
but-
podcast, yes.
Yeah.
Things don't go the way you want them to.
Murphy's Law.
Another.
We were talking about Murphy's Law earlier. Okay. Well, I want to say thank you to Valencia College. We're going to do a little spotlight here and say thank you, Valencia College, the East Campus, which is where this radio station is broadcast from. And we have state-of-the-art social broadcasting studio. Even though our music is broken, that is not the studio. We have this really cool atmosphere in here. We get to see people as they go by our window and they peek their heads in on the glass looking at us. And we also want to say thank you to Q, who is going to be a guest coming up in August. So I'm looking forward to that.
Actually, next week.
Next week. Oh,
Yes.
yay. So anyway, thank you to Valencia.
Yes, indeed. And we want to also just know if there's any shout outs for anybody in particular before we end the show.
Yep. As always, I want to say I'm giving a shout out to Jerron and to Val. I am going to be missing these guys. This is like I'm on countdown, and there's only 2 more shows with them. So I'm going to be really sad, and they're going to be teaching me. And then my What I Learned stories are going to be all about what I learned about radio broadcasting in 2 one-hour sessions. It's got to be all of this deep knowledge. So thank you guys.
We can fit it in.
And
Yeah,
thank
you'll
you
get
to
it.
Royce for being such a fantastic guest. This is amazing. And I've appreciated getting to hear new things that I didn't know about her.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate that. My shout out would be to my 2 amazing kids who are my biggest cheerleaders, and the wonderful friends like you and others around the country and even around the world that have supported me through my entrepreneurial journey. And I have a very special boss, Sandy, that inspired me and grew me as a professional when I worked with her several years back. So I just want to give a shout out to those special people in my life.
I think you better say your granddaughter.
And my precious granddaughter, she can't talk yet. She's only a few months old.
No, but they'll remember that, somebody's going to share that story, and she said that she acknowledged you. Yeah, so that's good. Okay, guys, what about you? Who are your shout-outs for?
Well, always a shout out to Isabella, especially
Thank
this being our second to last show or third to last. Either way,
Yeah,
August.
it's coming up.
Coming up
That's
soon.
it, yeah.
So I'm like, I've had a great time with you, of course.
Thank
I'll
you,
say more when
likewise.
we get there, but until now, these 7 months have been a great journey.
I sure hope that your family continues to listen to the show,
yeah.
even though you won't be here.
Aunt Darlene got you.
Does she? Oh, man, I love Aunt Darlene and Aunt Cynthia.
Thank you, Royce, for being a guest on our show tonight. It's always a pleasure. And of course,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Val, for being the best intern partner ever.
Oh, thank you. Same to me. Same for me. Thank you very much, Isabel, for always having us. I look forward to having a couple more great shows with you, and it's been a lot of fun. We're not done yet, but
Yeah.
we're winding down. And thank you, Royce, and thank you to all of our listeners. It's been great.
Oh my
So-
gosh, yeah. Thank you to our listeners. Oh my goodness. So you guys should go and look at the numbers for last week's show.
I did. I was very happy with what
Yeah.
we could see.
And
Yeah.
that was non-boosted, so I just boosted it today, and so I expect it to go again. Anyway, so that's really good. So people can listen to Intern Pursuit. Find us on our Facebook page, on Twitter. Listen to us live on mixlr.com/Valencia College. Look for us, Intern Whisperer, and then they can watch us live on Facebook again. So thank you.
So we're going to end the show just like we started it. So I'll start us off here. This has been Val.
This has been Jerron.
This is Isabella.
And you can't see us right now, but we're pointing at you so you can sign yourself off, Royce.
And this has been Royce from Royce Talks.
Very good. Okay, thanks, guys. Thank you, listeners.
See you all next time.